Good morning and welcome to Town Square Sunday. I'm Jim Phillips. Jack Spillane joins us to discuss the news of the day. Jack, of course, is a columnist for the New Bedford Light, an online newspaper that is doing a great job covering mainly the city of New Bedford. Good to see you once again, Jack.
Good to be here, Jim.
Okay. Last night, you hosted an online chat on the issue of abortion. The U.S. Supreme Court recently issued its ruling, in effect shooting down Roe v. Wade, which legalized abortion some 50 years ago, and decided to have the states individually weigh in on abortion. As we know now, a number of states have already said abortion is going to be legal in our state. Not the case in Massachusetts, but a number of states have already said abortion will be illegal. As we know, a number of states, as we said, already outlawed abortion. First of all, who were the people that joined you for this online chat? Was it a number of people or a panel or what?
Yeah, we had seven people, all women, who are leaders from various aspects of the healthcare and social service industries of New Bedford. The chat is a series of hour-long video forums that we do. We've done a lot of them on different subjects, arts, housing, different. We did one with Chief Oliveira a few weeks ago. So this was to talk about the fact that the nearest abortion clinic to New Bedford is 32 miles away in Providence. There's another one 44 miles in Attleboro. But our reporter Anastasia Lennon had done a story this week that there are what people call pregnancy crisis centers, 5 of them within that 32-mile area. So you have no clinics in 5 of these crisis counseling centers. And what came out in Anastasia's reporting was that the crisis centers basically are efforts by people who don't believe in abortion to talk women out of the procedure. And so we thought that was interesting in one of the most progressive states in the nation. And so we decided to find out what is the state of abortion services in Greater New Bedford, and why are they more difficult to obtain, not just here, but also on Cape Cod than in the rest of the state.
Mm-hmm. And the conclusion is it's pretty difficult here.
Yeah, now there is, Planned Parenthood used to have a place in New Bedford. It closed a few years ago. There is a group called Health Alternatives that runs an operation in Howland Place, and they will advise women on any number of issues on reproductive health. And if it's a low-income woman, they will try to put her in touch with places where she can obtain funding to get the transportation, maybe a day off from work, which can be difficult, and the cost of an abortion procedure, which generally runs around $600 and up. So there are some groups there, but there is no clinic per se, and there is nobody who really runs a clinic elsewhere in New Bedford, but there are these other operations.
One thing that bothers me about this decision, and I know that it's kind of deep in the weeds, but it still bothers me, is that these people, when they were being the justices, the conservative justices that Trump appointed, when they were being questioned by members of Congress, they all said or suggested that abortion was basically settled law. 50 years it's been on the books, and it's settled law. Yet, here we are with a decision, with a ruling that has outlawed abortion and has given that prerogative back to the states. I thought they were all under oath.
Yeah, so those Supreme Court hearings have become, I think, sadly, dog and pony shows where the justices, whether they're liberal or conservative, get up and say what they think the senators want to hear. So there's no doubt they all said that Roe versus Wade was settled law, an important precedent, something to be paid attention to, and from the very first opportunity they had to overturn it, even in spite of the Chief Justice's warning not to do that, they did it. So it's hard to argue that these were not people who had made up their mind on the issue already.
And there is a chance, depending on how the November elections work out, that there could be, although I I don't know what sort of a vote it would take. It'd be a close vote probably, but there could be a law around the corner that says abortion is banned, a federal law, that abortion is banned nationwide.
Or there could be a law that abortion is legal nationwide.
Well, that would mean the elections would have to, favor Democrats in November.
Right, and
I'm not sure that's gonna happen, Jack.
yeah, I've heard some recent polling that in spite of the earlier frustration with the Democrats about not getting anything done and the high rate of inflation, that this issue, particularly with suburban women, has struck a chord, and some of those numbers are coming down now. We'll have to see. But, it's interesting, if you read the polls, about 60%, somewhere around that figure, of the American public supports some level of abortion rights. Where you cut off that line is subject to debate, but in the early months, most Americans support it. It doesn't matter, people have strong feelings about this. The court has ruled, certainly in the South, the court ruled that separate but equal was not legal, even though the majority of people in the South supported separate but equal. But the court goes in different directions sometimes. It was kind of breathtaking how quickly they did it, especially given their statements at their confirmation hearings.
Still don't know who leaked the memo, but,
Do you think we'll ever find out?
no, I don't think so.
Neither do I.
Jack, I know you're still working a lot,
Yeah, maybe too much.
Yeah. But have you had a chance to check out the January 6th hearings?
I have a little bit.
Yeah.
A news junkie like me would not forego
I
that.
missed the opportunity. I know, I haven't missed it either. I know it's not a court of law, but it does appear pretty damning for the former president. Although there's been some pushback lately on some of the most recent testimony from Miss Hutchinson, for instance. But what's your opinion about what you've seen so far?
Well, normally I'm not a big fan of these congressional hearings anymore because they really have become dog and cat fights between the Democrats and Republicans, and you don't really learn anything new. But these ones, I have to say, have been very well produced, almost like a Hollywood television show.
Yeah, almost scripted.
And I think Kevin McCarthy probably made a big mistake by saying Nancy Pelosi did not want certain members on there because she felt they were involved in the effort to stop the vote counting. She didn't say he couldn't have any Republicans. She said he couldn't have Representative Jim Jordan and some other ones. Well, McCarthy in a fit said, I don't want you to have any Republicans. Pelosi promptly appointed Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who are on the Democrat side, and now we have hearings that are presenting an overwhelming amount of evidence about what the president knew and when he knew it.
And you think anyone will be held accountable when all is said and done?
I think they have to try. I heard an analysis today that one of the big mistakes about Watergate was that Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon because he thought he had to bring the country together. But because he pardoned him and Nixon did not have to face trial, the next president that comes along says, it's going to be hard to prosecute a president. I think I can beat it. Certainly that fits Donald Trump's profile. I think they have to try. Whether they can actually convict him in a court of his peers because the country is so divided, I have my doubts about, but I think they have to try because the evidence, some of the evidence of this Cassidy Hutchinson woman is just breathtaking about the things that I don't know what reason she has to lie that she says she heard.
Well, it makes for fun viewing. I'll say that.
The president leaping over the console and the
some of the Secret Service
car trying to get a hold of the steering wheel.
Some of the Secret Service have already debunked that, but we'll see.
They have a pledge to protect the president.
Yeah, and they haven't said it under oath yet, so we'll see.
Right. And one of the Secret Service men involved is one of the president's biggest supporters in the Secret Service.
You're listening to Town Square Sunday. I'm Jim Phillips. My guest is Jack Spillane, columnist for the New Bedford Light. You can read Jack's work at newbedfordlight.org. A signature campaign now underway to get a question on the ballot this fall, asking voters whether they approve of undocumented immigrants receiving driver's licenses in Massachusetts. You surprised by the challenge?
No, I'm not, and I don't think the Democrats should have been either. It took the Democratic House and Senate years and years to pass this bill. They finally did it. They were under immense pressure by the advocates for the undocumented immigrant community, and they no sooner did it than some groups closely associated with the Republican Party launched a signature campaign. The question is there time? There's no doubt to me if they had time, they could get that many signatures, but they have to get them by the end of August. And it's a lot. They're gonna have some professional people doing that, but there's no doubt they can get the money to hire those professional groups. We'll have to see.
I was reading in the Globe, a wealthy donor already is committing an enormous amount of money so they can pay the signature gatherers, which, as you might imagine, are way more effective. Paid signature gatherers, way more effective than volunteers. So,
And I think if it goes to the ballot, it will be close. You know, I wouldn't, I'm not sure I would bet either way on which way it would go, but I think it will be close. The polling certainly shows that.
last week, the mayor announced that $11 million in federal ARPA money will be directed to 5 housing development projects in New Bedford. They're great projects, some of them, I'm sure, but the critics of the mayor would likely say, no, that's nowhere near enough, Mr. Mayor. And it isn't. It won't solve the problem.
So New Bedford has entered a housing crisis rather quickly. We always lag behind Greater Boston in the prices of both rentals and mortgages, and now, the last 2 or 3 years, things have skyrocketed. These 5 developments that the mayor is devoting money to are certainly praiseworthy and things that should be done. They will both save historic buildings and also provide much needed housing, but it's a drop in the bucket. Now, the mayor will respond that he does have a plan to systemically address affordable housing, which is really a national problem and a state problem. Whether that plan, I'm not familiar enough with the details to know whether it is adequate, but certainly no one should think that these 5 developments are enough to address the affordable housing crisis in New Bedford.
Yeah. Well, it's next week we're going to have folks on from the Home Organization, Carl Alves, Sean Burgo, and they will talk with us more about the problem and what they see as a possible solution.
They have some interesting ideas that will hopefully serve as a prototype for how to finance these developments for many lower income people that could be used as a prototype for other people to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll be looking forward to that discussion. Further discussion on the housing issue. It's an important one for New Bedford. There are people who are suffering. I meant to ask you, Jack, is there an update on the woman who is living out of her car? Have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything, and I have another story similar to that I'm working at. There are more than a few people in New Bedford living out of cars, but I would like to know what happened to her myself.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, really. It's sad that we haven't been able to find a solution to this problem. But it's not going to happen overnight. I think we all know that. But and where do you put this affordable housing if it's new construction or what?
Also, I wonder if we might not be having to return to the days when 3 generations of a family lived together, because back in the day they did it because they could afford, that's how they could afford to live. And one of the saddest parts of that story was that this woman had not told her children that she was living out of her car, and I'm sure that 9 cases out of 10, if she did tell them, they would say, move in with us.
Yeah, I would hope so. All right, now we get down to the meat of it, Jack. How was the 1-year anniversary party? What was that like?
Well, that was a good time, I have to say. You know, I'm not a big fundraiser guy, and usually when I go to parties,
And that's what this was. This was a fundraiser for New Bedford.
It was. We raised $40,000 for the New Bedford Light. We operate on the public radio model, the public television model. We don't charge to go on our site. We hope that if you like what you see there, you'll send us money. So we had a big fundraiser. Steve Silverstein from the Black Whale was nice enough to shout for us, and it was a good crowd. I have my doubts. I'm usually the kind of guy that at a party I stand in the corner and and watch the dip turn green, because I'm not a big social butterfly, but
You gotta count heads, Jim.
I have to say, it was a good time. Walter Robinson from the Globe Spotlight team, gave a great speech honoring Ken Hartnett, who was really one of the moving shakers in founding the New Bedford Light. And I'll just say that in our first year, we've raised $1.6 million.
Wow.
So we've been successful in doing that. We hope to grow even more. We've hired 2 new reporters, and we're on our way.
Well, that's a great story, and you had a wonderful speaker, as you mentioned, Walter Robinson. Michael Keaton played him in the movie, and it was a good movie too. Really hit home.
Amazing scene where the guy says, I gave you the story years ago to the Globe, and it was buried in Walter's notes. He had long forgotten about. We've all been there.
Yeah. My guest has been Jack Spillane, columnist for New Bedford Light. You can read Jack's work at newbedfordlight.org. Thanks for coming in, Jack.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
Stay with us. Town Square Sunday continues in just a moment.
Let's stop your video. Full service, we're